Kal Kadosh, good morning. Something very interesting was brought up onto the table. A very interesting question. We know that there were two different spies that they went against the entire group. We had Yehoshua and we had Kalev. Now, we do know that obviously there were two different mentalities behind Yehoshua and Kalev. Moshe Rabbeinu prayed for Yehoshua because he added the Yod and he said, Ya Yoshiacha, Hashem should save you from the Meraglim. He didn't pray for Kalev. But besides that, it says that Kalev had a different ruach, he had a different mindset, a different perspective. And what exactly does this mean? So when we're going to try to understand, there's a beautiful Chavetz Chaim that he wanted to differentiate between the way of the custom of Yehoshua and of Kalev. And the same that we could apply to ourselves in educating children. How do we educate our children? Everyone knows that this generation, there's Yeridat Adorot. The generations are degrading. It's going down and down and down. And it becomes much more difficult. They become more chutzpah, right? Just like the Gemara says, that when Mashiach is going to come, there's going to be tons of chutzpah. So they have more audacity. Once upon a time, people would fear their parents. They would tremble. They would just look at them. Nowadays, they laugh at their parents. They do whatever they want with their parents. The parents become their slaves. And it was never like that. And the question that we ask ourselves is, so how do we confront it? Do we have to be very strong, right? Do we come with strength and with force, right? Or do we have to do it very nice and very with love, right? So that's the question. Sometimes we come and we say, maybe you have to do it with strength, right? With all and we're going to be very strict. Or does it have to be with love? The Mishnah actually in Pirkei Avot says, so from here we could think that it's probably going to be with love. But in essence, Kam Chachamim, and they say that this hashkafa was the exact same as Kalev and Yehoshua. What does that mean? We're going to explain. Yehoshua, right? Each one of these, we're going to say, outlooks has a positive and a negative. The positive of Yehoshua is that you'll never be influenced. Because if you're going to be so strong and so adamant in your beliefs, and you're going to be so strict, so it's going to be very good. But mitzat sheni, they're going to hate you. And that's what happened. The other Meraglim, they hated Yehoshua. They hated him with a passion. But when you have Kalev, Kalev was always mingled. He always tried to bring them closer. He was always their friends. So therefore, they loved him. But he could be very easily influenced by them. And that's why, right, Kalev actually went to pray. He went to pray on Kivrei Tzadikim because he needed that help in order to get out. So now comes Kalev, and what he's able to do is that he's able to come and to actually quiet all the other Meraglim down. Yehoshua, they were going to attack him. He went and he said, no, that these guys are liars. Immediately they were going to attack him. But Kalev, all of a sudden, Vayas Kalev, everyone kept quiet. They wanted to hear him. And all of a sudden, they thought that he was on their side. And all of a sudden, he switched because he was doing it always through love. So now, we're going to come and we're going to understand. So which way is better than in life? Which way is better? Should it be the one of love or should it be the one of harshness? How do you do it? How do you educate a child? With a stick or with love? How do you do it exactly? So why don't we actually bring a proof? We could bring a proof that, one second, here we have two different personalities. Who was chosen to be the next leader? Who was the next leader of Am Yisrael? Kalev was still alive. He could have been the next leader, but it wasn't Kalev. Who was it? Yehoshua. So one second. If it was Yehoshua, so that means it sounds that Hashem agrees more to Yehoshua's derech, right? Yehoshua's outlook or perspective, his way of education, than even Kalev. But rather, Kam Chachamim, and they say that's not true. Why? It says in the Sifri, right in Perek Av Zayin Pasuk Yudchet, it says that Kadosh Baruch Hu has to decide who's the next leader. And he says, Yifkol Hashem Elokei Aruchot Lechol Basar Ish Shel Yada. What is Elokei Aruchot? Elokei Aruchot, Rashi says that he's able to understand the difference of every single human being. Some human beings, they need harsh. Other human beings, they need softness. Other ones, they need sometimes harsh, sometimes soft. It all depends. Just like sometimes children. Some children, you could only go with praises, compliments. Other children, sometimes you have to go hard on them. And other children, if you're going to go hard, they're going to snap. So what do? Sometimes you have to do both. And you have to weigh it up. What does that mean? It means that Yehoshua did teshuvah. Yehoshua realized, and that's why he was chosen to become the leader, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu testified that he changed his ways. Which means at the beginning, Yehoshua was only straight, strict, but then he changed. And because he changed, that's why HaKadosh Baruch Hu came, and he actually decided on him. The Gemara Masechet Shabbat brings another two personalities, which sounds very, very similar. The Gemara Masechet Shabbat Lamed Aleph Amud Aleph says, Tanu Rabbanan, there was a story with a goy that came in front of Shammai, and he asked him, how many Torot do you have? So Shammai says, 2. Torah Shmichtav, Torah, the written and the oral Torah. So he says, I believe the written one, but I don't believe the oral Torah. So convert me on condition I'm only going to accept the written Torah. What happened was he threw him out. Shammai threw him out. So he came in front of Hillel. Hillel went and he comes and he teaches him. So he tells him, Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalet. The next day, when he came back, right, what happened was he told him the opposite. He told him, Aleph is Dalet, Gimel is Bet, Bet is Gimel. He switched everything. So the guy, the ger, comes and he tells the rabbi, I don't understand you. You told me yesterday the exact opposite. So he says, 1 second, but you're not relying upon me? Right? That means you're relying upon Torah Shebal Peh, which means that you cannot learn the Torah Shebichtav without the Torah Shebal Peh. It's impossible. And then the convert understood. So he continued and he learned the Torah Shebal Peh as well. The second story, again, with a goy, he tells me, I want to convert on condition that I'm going to convert and you teach me the entire Torah on 1 foot. Shammai came and he threw him out. Hillel came, he converted him. What did he tell him? Whatever you hate, don't do to your friend. That's the entire Torah. Everything else is just explanations. That's all. Everything else is just explanations in the Torah. Third story. Yeah? All of a sudden, a goy comes and he hears, right, from behind the Bet Midrash, the begadim, the clothing of the Kohen Gadol. He says, who's the one that gets these clothing? The Kohen Gadol. He says, okay, fine. I'm going to convert and I want to become a Kohen Gadol. So he comes in front of Shammai and he tells him, convert me in order to become a Kohen Gadol. He threw him out. A convert can never become a Kohen. So how's he going to become a Kohen Gadol? He went in front of Hillel and he converted him. So he told him, 1 second, but before you become a Kohen Gadol, I have to teach you. So you have to teach him everything. And he went and he started learning and learning and learning. And all of a sudden, you go to the pasuk where it says, Zara Karev Yumat. Somebody that's a stranger, non-Kohen, that goes into the Kodesh Kodeshim, goes, he's going to die. So he said, on who's this going on? They told him, even on David Melech Yisrael. So the goy went and he said, 1 second, I have a kal v'chomer. If right now, Bnei Yisrael, that they're called children to Hashem, why? Because they love each other, who loves them, and still, if the stranger, even David HaMelech, is going to go and he's going to be killed. So imagine myself. For sure, it's the same thing. So what happened? So I can't be. Fine. What happened is all 3 of them, right? They went and they started speaking to each other, the 3 Gerim. And they went and they started speaking, and they went and they said, Baruch Hashem, the kapdanut of Shammai, because Shammai was so strict, we were never going to convert. But Baruch Hashem, the humbleness, right, of Hillel is what brought us under the Shekhinah, is what brought us under the Shekhinah, under the divine providence of Hashem. What exactly is going on? So Shammai, the Shoresh Neshama, right, Shammai was the Shoresh Neshama of Yehoshua, Hillel, and Kalev. That's what it was. Yehoshua, Hillel, and Kalev. Shammai, right, was going with Kifut. He was always very harsh. And therefore, Shammai, right, was like Yehoshua. And that's why they say, right, the Arizal says that Shammai is a Gilgul of Yehoshua. So it makes sense why he's going with the same, right, name, the same concept. right? He says because he was going, right, according to the way that he was. Hillel was like Kalev. He was going in the fashion of Kalev, and therefore he always wanted to accept them. And he was always much more nice. He was always much more outgoing. But the Ben Ish Chai comes and he says, and Ben Yehoyada, why is it that these three Gerim, they only went and they only praised Hillel only after they met each other? Why even before they met each other? Why didn't they come and they should have praised Hillel? But rather they come and they say, you know the reason why? He says the reason why is because every single one, they said, maybe it was a one-off. Meaning, imagine right now if one of them went to Shammai and Shammai pushed them off. And then he went to Hillel and he converted. And then he became a very good Jew, a Ger Tzedek. So Shammai should have retracted. But if it wasn't that, then well, the second one, but if not even the third one, he should have realized. So because of that, we realize there's a very special concept, which Chachamim say, right? Semol docha v'yamin mekarevet. The left hand sometimes pushes away, but at the same time that you're pushing away, the right hand is bringing them closer. Which means, right, just like we say in Masechet Avot, Perek Aleph, Mishnah Yud Bet, Hillel and Shammai, Hillel says, Ohev Shalom v'rodev Shalom, Ohev et habriot u'mekarevan laTorah. You have to love the people, and that's how you're going to bring them back to the Torah. So one of the things that you're going to be zochet to learning the Torah is you have to love the people, love the briot. And that's why it's so important to understand this, because again, we have to actually understand that this is what we are obligated to do. Avat briot, when we love the people, that's what's going to bring them back to what it is. And therefore, if we're going to push away, whether it's going to be a child or whether it's going to be someone else, at the end of the day, we're only just going to push away the people and it's not going to gain. Aaron HaKohen had more people in his burial, more people that they were actually crying for him than for Moshe Rabbeinu. Because Moshe Rabbeinu had to be the one that's in charge of Am Yisrael. He had to be more of the stricter one. Aaron was the one that was more with the love. And therefore he was able to do Kol Bet Yisrael, to bring everyone back to the love. And this in essence is what Chachamim were always trying to teach us. The Rambam also says this in his Teshuvah, in his Igeret. He says in Igeret Mamar Kiddush Hashem, En ra'ui le'archi kovrei avera u'mchalei Shabbat v'limos otam. Don't push away people that are doing averot and mchalei Shabbat. Ele yesh lekarvam u'zarzam b'asiyat mitzvot. Try to bring them closer to do mitzvot. And Chazal actually say that the poshea beratzon, when he's going to go to the Bet Knesset, yitpalel, right? Imagine you have a person that he's a sinner, but he comes to the Bet Knesset to pray. They accept it. But we're not going to disgrace him. And therefore, it's very important just to realize this. And again, this is so important for us to understand. Rav Ovadia Yosef was once asked to do with there was a Rebbe in one of the yeshivot. There's a Chuvan Rav Ovadia Chelek Yod, Siman Kav Daled, in Sharet Zion in Brooklyn, New York, that they went and they asked him. And the question is that there was a certain type of a rabbi that he went and he said something that he agreed to the scientists more than the rabbis. So the head rabbi, the chief rabbi of Katzin, he wanted to find out, do we get rid of him or not? And Rav Ovadia went and he told them that for sure that the Rabbanim are always correct. The Torah is Torah Kedosha. There's nothing more to talk about. But I wouldn't tell you to push him away with two hands. Because since he's working in Chinuch and he's trying to bring back the children, so therefore we have to do the same thing to him. And Leolam te smol docha v'min mekarevet. We should try to bring him back with the love of the Torah, and therefore we will have more gain from it. And there was a famous story, right, with the Chavetz Chaim. The Chavetz Chaim, there was once a student that came to the yeshiva. The Chavetz Chaim tested him, and he wasn't for the yeshiva. He saw it right away. But the Chavetz Chaim, he knew that the boy came from a very far away place. He had to take a train back. So he told him, I'll come to my house. But he didn't want him to sleep in the yeshiva. He didn't want him to feel that he's in the yeshiva already. So he told him, but you're going to stay in my house. So the Chavetz Chaim brings him into his house. And all of a sudden, what happened is that it was very late, and the Chavetz Chaim realized that he was very, very cold. He was freezing. So the Chavetz Chaim came, and he put on his jacket. He put it on him to cover this boy. And therefore, the boy, he didn't do anything at the time, but he felt it. Many years later, this person, he wasn't able to continue learning. So he went out to work. But his children, they all went to yeshivot, and they were all learning a lot of Torah. somebody that once met him, they went and they told him, tell me something. With what merit do you have that all your children, they're all in learning, right? Tell me, just explain to me, what is it? What happened? And he went and he told them like this. He says, you should know. He says, you know that the Chavetz Chaim, he told him this story. He said, the Chavetz Chaim put on his jacket on me. He said, from that time that the Chavetz Chaim put on his jacket onto me, I felt the love of what it is and appreciation for it is the Lumdet Torah, the people that they learn Torah. I saw how much that it is, that there's the Ahava, how much it is for one, and that will continue for all generations. If you think about it, if the 24,000 students of Rebbe Akiva, they died because of not kavod, look what it was. You have a case of the Chavetz Chaim showing love to a person. And that love, that chom, that warmth, even though he didn't accept him into the yeshiva, but that warmth that he gave him actually switched and gave them strength for generations and generations to love Torah just because of that warmth, and it never stopped. Rav Aryeh Levin also had the same story, right, that happened to him, something very, very similar. Rav Aryeh Levin, he was in charge of a Talmud Torah. What happened is that there was a boy that he went to ask for food. He got his food, came back, he asked the second time, he got it. When it came to the third time, they didn't give him. But they said, listen, you already accepted twice, you already received twice, that's it, you can't receive a third time. So he went and there was pudding. He loved pudding. He went and he threw the pudding on the floor. Right away, it made a huge noise. Everybody was speaking about it. And the boy was already trembling. And he was called into the office, right, of Rav Aryeh Levin. Right, that night he could hardly sleep because he knew that the next day he was going to be called to the principal. And he finally gets into the office of Rav Aryeh Levin and he's waiting to be pounded. And the mashkiach comes and he tells him, right, I know that you love pudding. Is that correct? And the boy is just with so much embarrassment, he can't even look at the rabbi in the face. He comes and he gives him a plate full of pudding. The boy was shocked. He didn't understand what was going on. He comes and he says, please, I want you to have it because I know that you love it so much. He said that boy actually became one of the best boys in the yeshiva. He felt what it was, the love, instead of feeling what it is to be pushed away. And this, in essence, is supposed to be by every single one of us. Every one of us have to understand that there's the Shammai and the Hillel. It's true, this generation is a completely different generation. And they're all going down, and the levels are going down, and there's chutzpah, and there's things that we would have never dreamt of doing when we were younger. There's more Torah from one point of view, but there's also a lot more of other things as well. However, though, we always have to understand and we have to internalize that for us, the most important thing is always this yisod. The small, which is docha b'yamim mekarevet. We have to actually bring closer much more than we push away. And if we think that if a child is going to do something and we're going to start pushing them away, that we're going to succeed, it doesn't work. How many times does it happen that you have people that their children, bar minan, they come and they go off the derech and they push them away, they want nothing to do with the child. But they don't realize that the more that they push them away, the further they go away. And the more they would have actually brought them close, the more of a chance they would have actually been able to bring them back to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I just hope that this is actually a message for us to understand that in every single house, this could be whether it's going to be with our children, this could be with our students, this could be with our peers, with our friends, with everyone around us. The more that we're going to come and we're going to show this love, the more of Hillel that we're going to instill in the people, the more of Kalev that we're going to instill in the people, that in itself is going to bring us all back to doing a lot of teshuvah, Bezrat Hashem. Shabbat Shalom.